All right, so I want to kick things off today with a story that, I mean, it sounds like an exaggeration, but it's completely true. It's about British cycling. If
Ah.
you go back to, say, 2003,
Mm.
the organization was, well, there's no nice way to put it, a complete tragedy.
Tragedy is almost an understatement. We are talking about 100 years of just aggressive mediocrity.
Right.
They'd won exactly one gold medal in almost a century of the Olympics, never won the Tour de France.
Wow.
It was so bad that, get this, one of the top bike manufacturers in Europe refused to sell them their
They
bikes.
refused their money.
Yep. They were afraid that seeing the British team riding their gear would actually hurt their brand.
That's a special kind of failure. When a company turns down cash because you might embarrass the product, you've really hit rock bottom.
You have. But that rock bottom is exactly where the story turns around. They hired a new performance director, a guy named Dave Brailsford.
And he didn't do the usual thing, right? Like come in and just fire everyone.
No, not at all. He went in the complete opposite direction. He went small.
Microscopic even.
Exactly. He had this philosophy he called the aggregation of marginal gains.
Okay.
The idea was simple, really. If you break down everything that goes into riding a bike and you just improve each little piece by 1%,
Yeah.
you get a massive increase when you put it all back together.
And we're not just talking about the obvious stuff here, like, lighter tires.
Yes, everyone does that. That's where the competition was looking. Brailsford went deeper. They redesigned bike seats for a little more comfort. They'd rub alcohol on the tires for just a tiny bit more grip.
I read they tested different massage gels.
They did, to see which one led to faster muscle recovery. They even hired a surgeon to teach the riders the right way to wash their hands to cut down on getting sick.
My favorite detail from this whole story is the truck.
The maintenance truck.
Yes. They painted the entire inside of the truck pristine white.
Right.
Not for looks, but so they could spot the tiniest specks of dust that might degrade the performance of the bikes.
It sounds obsessive, doesn't it? I mean, to an outsider, it's a little ridiculous.
You have to wonder, does a speck of dust really matter?
But the math worked. Just 5 years after he took over, the British cycling team completely dominated the Beijing Olympics.
What was the final tally?
They won 60% of the available gold medals. 4 years after that, in London, they set 9 Olympic records and 7 world records
From being blacklisted by bike companies to just world domination.
in under a decade.
And that story is the perfect way into what we're covering today. We're doing a deep dive into Atomic Habits by James Clear, because that lesson, that core idea from British cycling, is the whole point of the book. We're all looking for this massive life-changing action, but the real magic is in the tiny 1% improvements.
That's the disconnect, isn't it? We dismiss small changes because they don't seem to matter in the moment.
Right.
You save a little money today, you're not a millionaire tomorrow, you go to the gym 3 times, you're still out of shape. The results aren't immediate, so we just quit.
So Atomic Habits is basically a manual for understanding the compound interest of self-improvement.
That's a perfect way to put it.
So let's get into the math on that, because Clear makes a really specific claim about that 1% figure.
He does, and it's a geometric progression, which is key. If you get 1% better each day for a year, you don't end up 365% better.
It's way more than that.
You end up 37 times better. But on the flip side, if you get 1% worse each day, you decline almost to 0.
37 times better. That's a staggering number. But the problem, and I think you see this with every failed New Year's resolution, is that delay. You do the right thing for a week, nothing happens, and you think, what's the point?
James Clear calls this the plateau of latent potential. It's that frustrating gap between the effort you put in and the results you see.
He has a great analogy for this.
The ice cube analogy. It's the best way to visualize it. Imagine you have an ice cube on a table in a room that's, say, 25 degrees.
Okay, still frozen.
Right. You start slowly warming up the room. 26 degrees, 27, 28.
And the ice cube is just sitting there. Nothing is happening.
Exactly. From the outside, it looks like all your effort is wasted. You're putting in the energy, but you're getting 0 visible results.
29, 30, 31 degrees. Still nothing.
But then you hit 32 degrees, and the ice starts to melt. That 1-degree shift wasn't special. It was the same as all the others, but it unlocked the change.
So the work you did at 26, 27 degrees, it wasn't wasted. It was being stored.
That is the key. All that effort is just stored potential. When you're in that valley of disappointment where you feel like you're working hard and getting nowhere, you're not failing. You're just storing energy.
And this leads to another huge idea in the book, that your outcomes are a lagging measure.
Yes. This is such a critical mental shift to make. Your net worth is a lagging measure of your financial habits. Your weight is a lagging measure of your eating habits.
Your knowledge is a lagging measure of your learning habits.
Exactly. You get what you repeat. But we're obsessed with the current result, not the trajectory. If you're a millionaire but you're spending more than you earn every month, your trajectory is terrible. But if you're broke and you're saving just a tiny bit each month, your trajectory is good.
So you have to fall in love with the process, not the snapshot of where you are right now.
You do. And if we accept that, it kind of forces us to rethink the whole idea of setting goals.
Because the standard advice is always, set huge goals, visualize the win.
But Clear argues that's just survivorship bias. We look at the winners and say, well, they had a goal to win, so the goal must be the reason they won.
But you're ignoring all the people who lost.
But who had the exact same goal. Every single Olympian wants to win the gold medal. Every job applicant wants the job.
So if winners and losers have the same goal, the goal can't be what makes the difference.
It has to be the system. Goals are about the results. Systems are about the processes that get you there.
And this is probably the most quoted line from the book.
It should be. You do not rise to the level of your goals. You fall to the level of your systems.
You fall to the level of your systems. That's when you write on your mirror. Okay, so if we're going to change our systems, we need to go deeper than just actions. We have to talk about identity.
This is where most attempts at change just fall apart. We focus on the outcome. I want to lose 20 pounds.
Or the how, the process. I'll go to the gym 3 times a week.
But we completely ignore the who. The identity. Clear uses this analogy of an onion.
Right, the layers of change.
The outer layer is your outcomes. The middle layer is your processes. But the core, the very center, is your identity.
And the book is this great example with 2 people trying to quit smoking.
It's a subtle language shift, but it shows a massive psychological difference. So person A is offered a cigarette, and they say, no thanks, I'm trying to quit.
Which sounds perfectly reasonable.
It does, but what are they really saying? They're saying, I am a smoker who is trying to be something else. Their identity is still smoker.
And person B.
Person B says, no thanks, I'm not a smoker.
It's a statement of fact. The identity has already changed.
Exactly. True behavior change is identity change. The goal isn't just to read a book, it's to become a reader. The goal isn't to run a marathon, it's to become a runner.
Okay, but here's the problem I think a lot of people face.
Yeah.
You can't just snap your fingers and say, I am a runner, if you've been on the couch for a decade. You feel like a fraud.
Of course. So you have to prove it to yourself. With evidence. Every action you take is like a vote for the type of person you want to become.
A vote. I like that.
You write one sentence, you've just cast a vote for, I am a writer. You do one push-up, you've cast a vote for, I am an athlete.
And just like in an election, you don't need a unanimous vote to win.
No, and that's the relief. You don't have to be perfect, you just need a majority. If you cast more votes for healthy person than for unhealthy person, eventually your self-image starts to change.
The evidence becomes undeniable.
And you stop saying, I'm trying to be, and you start saying, I am.
All right, so we have the core philosophy.
Yeah.
1% gains, systems over goals, identity. Let's get tactical. Let's talk about the 4 laws of behavior change.
This is the how-to part. These 4 laws map directly onto the neurological habit loop.
Which is cue, craving, response, and reward.
Right. And if you can tweak any part of that loop, you can change the habit. So let's start with the cue. Law number 1 is make it obvious.
It's all about designing your environment.
Completely. We think we have so much self-control, but really we often just do what's easiest or most visible. There's a great study from a hospital cafeteria. The researchers wanted to see if they could get people to drink more water without saying a single word to them.
So no posters, no lectures on health.
0. All they did was rearrange the drinks. They put water in refrigerators right next to the cash registers and added baskets of bottled water at all the food stations.
And what happened?
Soda sales dropped by over 11%, and water sales shot up by 25%. People didn't suddenly have a craving for water.
It was just there.
It was obvious.
Yeah.
So if you want to learn guitar, don't hide it in a case in the closet. Put it on a stand right in the middle of your living room. Make the cue impossible to miss.
This idea that environment is more powerful than willpower. It brings us to the Vietnam heroin study. And honestly, this study just blew my mind.
It's one of the most incredible findings in sociology. So during the Vietnam War, Heroin use it was rampant among U.S. soldiers. About 35% tried it, and almost 20% were considered addicted.
Which back home caused a massive panic. The government was thinking, we're about to have thousands of heroin addicts coming back to the suburbs.
But that's not what happened. When the soldiers came home, about 95% of them just stopped.
Just stopped overnight.
Pretty much. They didn't all go to rehab, they just stopped using.
But how is that possible? We're told heroin is one of the most addictive substances on Earth.
Because their entire environment changed. In Vietnam, the cues were everywhere. The stress of combat, the boredom, their friends using, the easy access.
Is a perfect storm for that habit.
Right. But when they got back to their homes in the U.S., all of those cues were gone. The stimulus vanished, and so did the craving.
So it shows that so-called disciplined people aren't necessarily superhuman. They're just better at designing their lives so they aren't tempted as often.
That's a huge part of it. They control their environment.
There's another tactic in the book for awareness, for making your current habits more obvious. It's called pointing and calling.
This comes from the Japanese railway system. Train operators there, they literally point at things and say them out loud. They'll point at a signal and say, signal is green. Point at the speedometer, speed is 80.
It seems a little strange.
It might look strange, but it reduces errors by up to 85% because it takes an unconscious habit and makes it conscious.
So I could use that for a bad habit.
Absolutely. You could literally pick up a cookie, point at it, and say out loud, I'm about to eat this cookie, and it is not helping me reach my health goal.
Oof. Saying it out loud kind of ruins it.
That's the idea. It breaks the autopilot.
Okay, let's move on. Law number 2, make it attractive. This is about the craving.
And this is all about dopamine. We used to think dopamine was about pleasure, the reward itself. But now we know it's really about anticipation, the desire for the thing.
So it's the wanting, not the having.
Exactly. That dopamine spike happens before you act, and it's what drives you to do it. So we need to make our good habits more desirable.
And a great way to do that is temptation bundling.
Yes. You link an action you want to do with an action you need to do.
The engineering student.
The classic example. This student loved watching Netflix, but he knew he needed to exercise more. So he hacked his stationary bike and hooked it up to his computer.
So Netflix would only play.
If he was pedaling at a certain speed, if he slowed down, the show would pause.
That's brilliant. He bundled the want with the need.
He made the hard thing attractive by linking it to the fun thing. And another huge part of attractiveness is our social environment.
We imitate people.
3 groups in particular: the close, the many, and the powerful. So if you want a habit to seem attractive, join a culture where that desired habit is the normal behavior.
Like the Polgar sisters in chess.
Yes. Their father, Laszlo Polgar, had this theory that geniuses are made, not born, and he decided to test it by raising his 3 daughters to be chess prodigies.
So he just created a chess-centric world for them.
Completely. The house was filled with chess books. They studied famous games. They played constantly. It was just what their family did, and all 3 became grandmasters.
So the takeaway is, if you want to get fit, join a running club. Make it the normal thing to do.
Precisely. Make it the path of least social resistance.
All right, law number 3, make it easy. This is the response, the action itself.
And the big trap here is confusing what Clear calls motion with action.
I am so guilty of this.
We all are. Motion is when you're planning, researching, strategizing. It feels productive. I'm researching the best workout plan. I'm looking up healthy recipes.
If you're not actually doing anything.
Right. Action is the thing that actually delivers an outcome. Doing the workout, cooking the meal. We get stuck in motion because it lets us feel like we're making progress without any risk of failure.
It's a comfortable form of procrastination.
It is. And the book has this great story about a photography class that really shows the cost of getting stuck there.
The quantity versus quality experiment.
Yep. A professor divides his class in 2. One half is the quantity group. Their final grade is based purely on the number of photos they submit. 100 photos gets you an A.
Simple enough.
The other half is the quality group. They only have to submit 1 single photo. But to get an A, it has to be nearly perfect.
So you'd think the best photos would come from the quality group, who spent all semester planning 1 perfect shot.
You'd think so, but it was the opposite. All the best photos came from the quantity group.
Why?
Because while the quality group was sitting around theorizing about what makes a perfect photo stuck in motion, the quantity group was out there taking hundreds of pictures. They were making mistakes, learning, and getting better through sheer repetition.
So just do the reps. And to make that easier, there's the 2-minute rule.
This is maybe the most practical tool in the whole book. Any new habit you start, it must take less than 2 minutes to do.
So read a book every night becomes...
Read one page. Do 30 minutes of yoga becomes take out my yoga mat.
But people will argue, reading one page won't make me a genius.
No, but you have to master the art of showing up first. You can't optimize a habit you don't have. The point isn't to get results in those 2 minutes. The point is to make showing up the automatic part.
And you can invert this for bad habits.
Yeah.
Make them difficult.
Add friction. If you watch too much TV, unplug it after you use it. If you spend too much time on your phone, leave it in another room. The more steps between you and the bad habit, the less likely you are to do it.
Okay, last one. Law number 4. Make it satisfying. The reward.
This is critical because our brains are wired for a simple rule. What is immediately rewarded is repeated. What is immediately punished is avoided.
The problem is that good habits often have a delayed reward.
A very delayed reward. You exercise today, but you don't get fit today, so we need to find a way to give ourselves an immediate reward, a signal that says, hey, that was good, do it again.
The story about the soap in Pakistan.
Perfect example. A health worker, Stephen Luby, managed to decrease disease rates by 50% just by introducing a better soap.
It wasn't about education.
Not really. People knew they should wash their hands. It was just a chore. But this new soap smelled great and lathered up really nicely. It made the act itself enjoyable, satisfying.
So it became its own reward. For those of us not motivated by soap, there's the paperclip strategy.
A great visual trick. Used by a stockbroker. He had 2 jars on his desk. One started with 120 paper clips.
And every time he made a sales call.
He moved one paper clip from the full jar to the empty one. It was a simple, immediate, visual sign of progress. It gave him a little hit of satisfaction, even if the calls went badly.
It's proof that you did the work.
Yeah.
Speaking of doing the work, there's a final rule for this section. Never miss twice.
This might be the most important rule of all. Everyone has bad days. You will miss a workout. That's fine. It happens. But the real damage isn't in the first mistake.
It's in the second one.
Exactly. Missing once is an accident. Missing twice is the beginning of a new bad habit. So if you miss Monday's workout, the single most important thing is to get back on track on Tuesday.
You're not aiming for perfection. You're just trying not to let one slip up become a spiral.
That's it.
Okay, I want to touch on a couple of advanced tactics before we wrap up. Let's talk about commitment devices. The Victor Hugo story is just wild.
It's extreme, for sure. So Hugo was supposed to be writing The Hunchback of Notre Dame, but he was procrastinating. Parties, guests, anything but writing.
We've all been there.
So he took all of his formal clothes, had his assistant lock them in a chest, and hide the key.
So he had nothing to wear to go outside?
Nothing but a large shawl. He literally couldn't leave the house to socialize. He locked his future self into the habit of writing.
That's a serious commitment device. And once you're locked in, you face the next enemy, which is just boredom.
Right. And that's where the Goldilocks rule comes in. Humans feel most motivated when they're working on a task that is right on the edge of their abilities.
Not too easy, not too hard.
Just right. About 4% harder than your current skill level. That's where you find flow. But even that fades.
And the professionals are the ones who can keep going when it gets boring.
That's the part no one talks about. The Steve Martin example is perfect. He wasn't an overnight success. He spent 10 years learning comedy, 4 years refining his act, and then he was a huge success. The pros stick with it long after the novelty has worn off.
Just a quick mindset shift for that in the book, right? Swapping I have to with I get to.
It's so simple, but it works. I have to go for a run, feels like a chore. I get to go for a run. Frames it as an opportunity. It shifts your perspective from obligation to gratitude.
We have covered so much ground here. The 1% rule, identity, the 4 laws. If you had to boil it all down for the listener, what's the single core philosophy?
I think it's that success is not a goal to be reached. It's a system to be lived. We get so fixated on crossing a finish line, but what happens after you cross it?
The race is over.
Right. The goal is temporary. A good system is permanent. It's designed to last. And to bring it back one last time,
You don't rise to the level of your goals.
you fall to the level of your systems.
That really is the key takeaway. So here's a final provocative thought to leave you with. Clear suggests that if you ignored your goals completely, if you never even looked at the finish line, but you focused only on improving your system 1% each day, would you still get results?
And the book's answer is yes. You might even get better results because you're not overwhelmed by the size of the goal. You're just focused on taking the next step.
So maybe that's the challenge. Forget the marathon for a second. Just put on your running shoes.
Forget the novel. Just write one sentence.
Move one paperclip.
Just get 1% better.
Thanks for diving in with us. We'll see you on the next deep dive.